So, hail, welcome back to our fourth room one-on-one for the season. Frustratingly, I was a wee bit too late to get both Kyrat and Falkirk, but maybe catch them in the future. But anyway, Celtic welcome back Livingston, the Scottish Premier League. After a year hiatus, I have a new Livingston contact, so I'd like to welcome former co-host of the Talk Livy podcast, Angus McGregor, at the show. Well, Angus, how are you, pal?
Yeah, not doing too bad. How about yourself, mate?
I'm okay, pal. I'm okay. Bit nervous about tomorrow. Shouldn't be, but I'm just a big shite bag. So my old pal Ewan, he's cried off and he threw your name at me as Angus. So it's time for the wee ritual that any new guest kind of let us know a wee bit about himself. So who is Angus McGregor? Why is he support Livy?
Yeah, it's a good one to start off with, to be fair. I am a Livingston fan because basically, strangely enough, because of my dad, even though he doesn't support Livingston. So my family are from Rossie on the Isle of Bute, and they moved to Livingston before I was born. My dad, with this kind of new kind of life, like living on the mainland, wanted to go to like football games and stuff like that. So when they had me, his interest was to get me and my sisters to start going to football matches. Livingston being on our doorstep, that made it very, very easy for that to happen. He has said that if it wasn't for Livingston, we'd probably be in Hearts or Falkirk fans just based off of where the location is. So
Geography, yeah.
I think that for me, like most people my kind of age, I imagine, because obviously the club was only formed a year before I was born. That's how most of us got our start. But so I've got him to thank for it. Whether that's a good or a bad thing, I think it balances itself out. To be fair.
But that's pretty cool that you actually support the club and the club was there before you were born and stuff like that. I mean, because obviously I'm a fair bit older than yourself and I can remember Meadowbank and stuff like that.
Mhm.
Do you know what I mean? So proper supporter, brilliant man. Tell us a wee bit about the podcast because I was kind of sad when I was talking to you and I met him at the Queen's Park game last year, Queen's Park Livingston, and he was saying to me, we're finished because of this and that and that. But I enjoyed that because you had a great report with the club, didn't you?
Aye, definitely. So the podcast ran for maybe a couple of years beforehand, before I got involved in it, and it was during COVID that I
Mm-hmm.
basically just reached out to Ewan and Andy Semple, who used to do it before as well,
Right.
and said like, oh, like if you need any like hands or anything like that, it's during COVID. There's absolutely nothing for us to be doing. Like I would be more than happy to kind of come on and talk about like Livy. Like it's kind of like a social thing. It kind of became, we could
Of
talk to
course, yeah.
people, like-minded people about the kind of replace what was missing during those times, and then from there on just kind of continued on throughout the years. And as you say, like we've had plenty of success, getting like guests on. I think before I started they had a really good connection where they were getting players to interview, and then once I joined we were doing a lot of stuff where we were able to get, David Martindale came on
Yeah.
basically at the start of every season. We had Marvin Bartley on, we were able to talk to like Keegan Jacobs, we did a cup final special, and stuff like that as well. So yeah, there was a lot of kind of stuff there, but different commitments then come into play. Ewan has literally just had a baby in the last month or so, which is fantastic news. And I think that he was basically taking that first step into like, that kind of life and dedicating more time to his family and stuff like that. And there did used to be, five or so of us, and it kind of dwindled down to Ewan in the end. So I think that after that last season, the Premiership, we were both kind of like, well, we'll see it off. Um,
It's kind of broke you for a wee bit.
exactly, which is quite a shame to be fair, because I can only imagine how good it would have been to have done it last season,
Done it last
especially
season.
especially the aftermath of that Ross County game, just to come on and just be absolutely delirious. But all good things have to come to an end. But we had a good crack at it. We'd been on, like Sports Scene. We'd like written for like
Mhm.
Sky Sports, been on Open Goal and everything like that. And you can look back at all that stuff and be very proud of what we've done for a club, that's tiny, to have had a relatively successful show. I think we can be quite happy with ourselves.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. I enjoyed your stuff. Obviously, I only kind of jumped on when you were doing the preview and review of your games. And I felt you were always fair, so always enjoyed it. Obviously, I've got that kind of rapport with you as well. But great stuff, mate. Great stuff. Right. So We're only 2 league games in, so this is always a great time, and especially to have a good recap of last season. And I think you'll probably enjoy it anyway. As you know, I kind of fly through it. I'll just go through the kind of main facts. And you want to jump in with batter in, but we'll do a wee summary at the end. So, after finishing in 12th place the season before, Livingston ended their 6-year run in the Scottish Premiership and fell into the Championship. David Martindale was retained and started his 4th pre-season as manager. In massive news, the Tony Macaroni sponsorship of the stadium ended and the home of the Set Fair Stadium was born.
Home of the Set Fair Arena.
Arena, my apologies.
They'll come for you for that.
So, season kicked off with the League Cup groups, drawn with Forfar, Dunfermline, Cove Rangers and Spartans. 3 wins and a final day defeat by Spartans meant that Livy finished in 2nd place, 9 points for 4 games with a +4 GD, the exact same as Spartans, but as Spartans scored 7 goals more, meaning they edged out Livy right out of the cup. So in the league, a damn good start that did not belie the bookies' favourite tags. Undefeated in the first 10 games, 6 wins and 4 draws, however, weren't good enough to lead the way as League One champions Falkirk on 25 points with Livingston just 3 points behind. So a minor bump was next, a 3-0 doing by Dunfermline away, but worse bigger bump was on the horizon. Another 4 wins and 2 draws. Between the 21st of December and the 4th of January, Livingston would lose 3 in the bounce to Ayr, Wraith and Queen's Park, that game I was talking about. So that defeat at Hampden left Livingston in 3rd place, 9 points behind Falkirk and 2 off Ayr United in 2nd. Now, the team rallied again, however. For the next 10 games, they would win 6, draw 4, including 2 wins over Falkirk and an away win over Ayr United. East End Park again would cause problems with a 1-0 defeat, but 5 wins from 6 would secure 2nd place. The 5-0 win over Ayr giving a potential title overturn on the final day of the season, but Falkirk's 3-1 win over Hamilton was matched with a 1-0 home defeat by Partick Thistle. So as the league finished, Livingston finished in 2nd place from the 36 games, 20 wins, 10 draws, 6 defeats, 55 goals scored, 27 conceded, 28 plus GD, 70 points on board, 3 worse off than champions Falkirk, 10 less goal difference, 7 points ahead of Ayr in 3rd, 15 off of Partick Thistle, meaning it was the playoffs. So Livy got a fair bit of revenge as they were drawn with Partick Thistle in the semi-finals, winning 2-0 at both home and away, meaning at the end of May, in a 2-legged final, you would face Ross County. A 1-each home draw wasn't great. A late Ronan Hale penalty, maybe giving County the edge. But despite going 2-0 down in Victoria Park, the team would rally, pull it back, and eventually win the game 4-2 and gain a promotion with a 5-2 aggregate win. In the Scottish Cup, 3rd round, 2-0 home win tie over Brora Rangers was followed by a 3-2 extra time away win over Ross County. They must fucking hate yous. And then a home 3-0 win over Cove Rangers, meaning another home tie for the quarters. However, run came to an end and St Johnstone edged Livy out with a fantastic 30-yard strike, 1-0 from Graham Carey, enough to take the tie. Now, in the Scottish Challenge Cup, it returned to Livingston for the first time in 10 years. An away win over Spartans, a home penalty shootout win over Inverness, a home 2-1 win over Morton, and then revenge on Dunfermline, 2-0 at East End Park, sent Livingston to the final against Queen's Park. 10 years ago, Livingston won this cup by beating Alloa 4-0, and he's won it again, this time 5-0. So in summary, promotion wasn't plain sailing, but it seemed exciting enough. Challenge Cup win, a sustained Scottish Cup run, and I would go as far to say it sounds like a pretty enjoyable season, mate.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Especially coming off the back of that season we finished 12th, where we could have absolutely no complaints as to getting relegated. We were by far the worst team in the league that season. I think we won maybe about 4 or 5 games, or that like we were rubbish. We were so bad. So to bounce back from that and go into the championship, and there is obviously what like a lot of people call like sleeping giants in that league. Obviously, Falkirk had been down in the different divisions with like a big fan base. Everybody goes on about the likes of Dunfermline, the likes of Partick Thistle, even like Ayr United have probably got a better like kind of like fan base and stuff like that than us. So it's kind of like no guarantee that we were kind of going to come back up. And I think at the start of the season, we might have been a wee bit guilty of maybe still kind of playing like we were one of the bottom teams of the Premiership, as
Right.
opposed to going out and taking it to teams. I think the thing that really kind of encapsulated that was the kind of directness of kind of play, where Martindale kind of liked to have a 4-3-3 formation, but the two wingers are kind of big target men who you're going
Right.
to fire the ball up to. So you had Robbie Muirhead on the right hand side, who did, a decent enough job, and Tete Yengi on the left hand side. With that, we didn't really kind of we didn't really have marauding like fullbacks who would kind of support them. So if they were both
Which
going to
you
cut
have
in,
had in the past.
yeah,
Yeah,
um, which would counteract very nicely with them. They could like overlap and get balls into the box of that. Second half of the season, though, we ended up playing Christian Montano on the left wing, and Lewis Smith starting on the right wing, and Muirhead went through the middle. And I think that was a massive catalyst, because we had people who were actual natural wingers utilising the space. We had Robbie Fraser, who came on loan from Rangers, who somehow ended up at Dunfermline now as well. And it seemed as if that kind of change with the personnel, it just fit the ethos or what Martindale was trying to do, the kind of football that he wants to play. It started to work now, because, God forbid, we've had people in actual positions who
yeah,
were actual players there. And this happened before. I think one of the most enjoyable seasons that we had watching Livingston was when we had Alan Forrest on one of the wings, we had Odin Bailey on Newbley on one of the other ones. And for some reason, after we lost Forrest, we didn't really kind of replicate that. So it's been kind of a couple of years where we didn't have natural wingers playing in those areas, but try to play that formation. Um, and it was just so refreshing. We had people who wanted to, square fullbacks up to. I mean, growing up in the late 90s, early 2000s, you're growing up watching wingers go and beat players, get to the
yeah.
byline or cut in and whatever. That's the kind of football I think that everybody kind of really enjoys watching, rather than proper possession stuff. You want to see somebody exciting getting on it. I mean, you'll know
100%.
that. You'll know that as better than anybody with the likes of the wingers that Celtic have had over the years. So on that front, a lot more enjoyable to watch, but then it was also a lot more effective, and we've had a lot of joy with that so far as well. That's kind of continued into this season as well. Lewis Smith has done really well. You'll see that goal that he scored against Falkirk. There is a little bit of it creaking in, though, again, I would say, there. I don't know if you'll have seen like the game at the weekend there, where we ended up basically with just like every forward on the pitch as we
Yeah,
could, but
yeah.
they're all quite central kind of players, so maybe it doesn't kind of work out so much. But we need that balance to know when to kind of do it and when not to. But aye, couple of additions last season as well coming in January. We got Danny Wilson in, who shored up things at the back. Macaulay Tate on loan from Hearts, and then Robbie Fraser for the full season, for most of the season as well. If we have all of them the full season, I would be inclined to say that we probably would have won the league. If we weren't, if we were only 3 points at halfway, with only having them for half of it, I don't see why we wouldn't have
Yeah.
been in a better position. But fair play to Falkirk, they did what we didn't and beat a lot of the smaller teams a lot more comfortably. Even though our record was a lot better against Falkirk, there's no point going and beating Falkirk 3 out of the 4 times and draw another one, drop 9 points to Dunfermline, or I think we dropped about 6 points to Queen's Park as well, who both table. But it's all part and parcel of it, and the main thing was getting up,
Yeah,
and we did it
promotion,
in
yeah.
spectacular fashion.
Yeah. It's funny. I was going to ask you personally, because obviously you can't speak for the support. Were you questioning Davy Martindale at that point? Now, through your own podcast, I know how important Davy Martindale has been to Livingston over the years, and I know the impression that he makes in the club and his history and stuff like that. But did you think maybe at that point this was an opportunity to go in a different direction? I'm more talking about the last summer. And then when I spoke to you on that day at Hampden, he was kind of going, I'm maybe thinking this is, and it kind of ties in with what you're saying. You were maybe still playing that type of football, but you weren't running away with the league. So then the question mark's kind of going, what's the point? Do you know what I mean? I just your own thoughts on it.
Yeah, I think for me, the time that there was the most kind of doubt for that was that season we got relegated. The prime example being that we had Bruce Anderson, who was by far our best striker, but couldn't really get too much game time. We're still playing the likes of Curtis Guthrie up front, who, he's now playing at Queen of the South, which tells you all you need to know about how good he was. No offence to Queen of the South or anything like that.
Angus, can I interrupt you 2 seconds here, mate? Right, so it just came into my head there. Davy Martindale wasn't always that kind of direct guy.
No, I wouldn't say so.
You spoke about it a minute ago that one of your best seasons was when you had Alan Forrest and stuff like that. Do you think, right, and this isn't a dig in the pitch because I try not to bring the pitch up, but the pitch definitely wore and tore over the years, and you guys got a benefit from it, from playing at home on that pitch and kind of knowing and training on it and stuff like that. So do you think that Davy Martindale actually fell into it without intentionally? He was just seeing a benefit? Or am I just talking absolute gumph?
I think, to be fair to him, it's probably more...
The players moving, sorry.
Aye, it's probably more to do with players leaving and the club going through, see, like all those like the trials and that off of the pitch with the ownership.
Yeah.
Kind of like, so what Martindale, obviously, what's common for him to say is about the budget. And that's been very, very apparent, because that last season in the Premiership that we had, like some of the duds that we had, and we're just getting them from absolutely anywhere. Whereas we'd done quite a good job of being able to pick up players from, like the Championship, like who was Partick Thistle's better, who didn't get promoted, or who finished like third or fourth in the Championship, who's had a really good season. We weren't even able to match kind of prices for that. Like they would stay at teams like Partick rather than coming up to play in the Premiership for us, and we're just getting absolutely
teams like Queen's Park for a while spending a fortune. I mean,
I'm sure there's one where the boy Rory Payton was linked with Livingston, and he went to Queen's Park instead, from Queen of the South. And at that time, that would have been quite a ludicrous kind of thing to look at. Aye, the pitch definitely needed relayed. I think that a lot of those players that we did have, though, I think you could put them on anything. You could put them on the Guardian Navidas, and they wouldn't even played that well. So I don't think it really would have mattered.
Right, okay.
There's a lot of players in that season that I'm just looking at, and I'm just like, I get nightmares like if I look at a squad listing from that time again. But aye, a lot of it does come down to, because obviously Martindale's recruitment can be a bit erratic at times. You do see a lot of players just coming in from loads of different places. I mean, you look at how we've ended up with, like, say, J. Emmanuel Thomas has been at the club. It's said about him now, considering his like off-field issues. Jeremy Bakila, who we've just signed this year, we've just signed a 36-year-old striker who's like an internationalist who was playing in the Eredivisie last year. Like, we're quite good at
goals last season, aye.
Yeah, so we're pretty decent at spotting talent in Scotland. From abroad, there's just a couple of rogue ones in that, but that makes it a wee bit exciting for the squad as well. You've got to have a wee bit of excitement in the transfer windows.
Well, aye, tell me about it. Right, so let's go to this season then. To the final part of it last season. It's often, I mean, obviously Celtic kind of don't matter with this, but you've often seen it with big clubs or clubs who have had a great point and then they're kind of stagnating a wee bit, that maybe go down and win something, can revitalise the support. And just for looking through your season, I can imagine that done that to you, especially after such a bad season, to go down, win that cup, to go through the excitement of the playoffs, even though you would rather win the league, I dare say, but to come through the excitement and to actually win it in this way you did, I can imagine you boys, the summer was like, brilliant, that was class, that was excellent fun.
Aye, absolutely. It's like a funny thing when you say that about, like, would you rather win the league and that. We were actually on a stag do that last game of the season, so we were flying, just got into the airport as the game was like maybe halfway through. We didn't get to the hotel until like it actually like finished. So it's probably a good thing that we didn't get, we weren't there. So like if they won the league, we would have been pretty bummed that we missed that.
Right, okay.
We also weren't in the pub for watching the match and then watching it as it happened. So we're just like looking at our phones and that. So by the end of it, we're like, it doesn't really matter. Then we end up having, the playoffs. where we go up to Dingwall on a Monday night, a good chunk of us, for Livingston, and it's probably my most favourite football memory, in all honesty, just because of the absolute euphoria from it. And people might like laugh at that, but we don't have an abundance of success. I mean, speaking to yourself, like there's not. You probably wouldn't compare us winning the playoff to you winning like a treble or that, but it probably meant just as much to us. Like the total just joy that kind of came from that. Like it's not things that we're going to experience that often. We're not going to have a season like this probably, you could arguably even say again, where we've won a trophy and got promoted, and in such dramatic fashion as well, where we've scored the last kick of the ball to make it 4-2, and everybody's just on the pitch and just hugging everybody, and players and everybody getting involved. But I've said to a lot of people who I actually work with, a couple of St Johnstone fans, and obviously they've just like went down to the Championship there and are starting off pretty well. And I'm saying to them, I'm like, this is going to be like the most enjoyable season you have had maybe ever, because you're going to be playing teams, you're going to be winning, you're going to be playing nice stuff. You don't have VAR, and that makes a whole difference. They're going to have the best time, and it's going to be back to playing the whole same teams again.
Yeah. No. I mean, everything you said there. I mean, obviously the St Johnstone boys all get the double when they fucking can't see it. Do you know what I mean? They're all sitting watching the telly. But I had Gavin on, the Aberdeen fan, and we spent, I'd say, 20 minutes just talking about the cup final win, and he's talking about the euphoria and how he felt about it and stuff. And we've all got different levels. I was a young guy, and all I wanted was Celtic win the league. I hadn't seen Celtic win the league in so long, and I was sitting talking to a boy. He was a man from Manchester, and he was talking about how much he was going to party if Man United won the European Cup. Different levels, isn't it? You're just sitting. But it's the same euphoria. It's the same excitement. We're all football fans, so exactly. I would hope I'd never kind of look down on the things, mate. Right. So this season, right. So, of course, David Martindale would return as manager again, but earlier in May it was revealed that Calvin Ford, the great-grandson of American industrial Henry Ford, had led a takeover, and he was subsequently appointed the new chairman and majority shareholder after buying out previous owner John McElvogue's 100% stake in the club. So I don't know, do you want to talk on that? I mean, I kind of try to look for a wee bit more information, and there wasn't much forth. I'm presuming he's not walking out here with a big bag of money, but it just gives you more stability and a wee bit. Would that be correct? Yeah.
Aye, by far. Kind of what we were saying there earlier about like how Livy were pretty good at going around and getting players from like championship clubs and stuff like that. Like kind of some of the better players. And we've seen like a little kind of extent to that, even just like in the current squad at the moment. Danny Wilson was able to sign on again, which, if he doesn't come in, are we able to afford that? Our goalkeeper, Jerome Pryor, who was a lot of people's player of the season last year, we signed him down to a 3-year deal, which is incredible for Livingston. Yeah. We're also able to attract Mo Silla to leave Dundee and come to us, which I think raised a lot of eyebrows. It certainly did for us. 100%. So even just getting to that stage again where we're able to pick up those kind of players, and that's all you can really ask for. We're not having to go and look into, non-league of English football and be like, oh, who's got professional experience? They're like way past it, but they've got experience playing at like a reasonable level. Might have been 10 years ago or that, but we're now looking at transfer windows, and it can be a little bit exciting. We can then look at, like, for example, like this season, you're looking at Ross County and St Johnstone are probably the two teams who are going to go up. But who's playing for Ayr? Who's playing for Partick Thistle? Whose contract might be running out and might be like, oh, I fancy a chance at playing for like Livingston, because I think that's something that we did really well, which led to even like a benefit for the national team. You obviously seen Lyndon Dykes is probably the best example of somebody who got a chance at Livingston and has went on to play for Scotland. You've also got like Declan Gallagher, who really shown at us, went to Motherwell, got capped by Scotland. Nicky Devlin for Aberdeen as well. Craig Halkett, if he didn't get injured, would probably be the exact same. Liam Kelly's even snuck into a couple of squads. So Hearts have taken a couple of players as well, like James Penrice and Alan Forrest have went. So it's a good thing for us, and it's a good thing for Scottish football, I'd say. Obviously, people always say that Livingston bring nothing in that to the league. I think that's mainly just due to the support, which I can't really dispute in that regard. But in terms of, bringing through players and giving people chances, I think that we're a lot better at it than probably people give us a lot of credit for. So even just kind of getting to that bit again, where we have like a team that we can kind of be proud of in that manner, and we can supply and enjoy them. We understand our level in the pecking order. If we can have these players for a couple of years and they can move on and they can succeed elsewhere, so be it. We'll get a good, couple of years out of them anyway, and hopefully see us, remain a level footed club in the Premiership.
Yeah, makes sense. Right, so you touched on it there. Now, you just calm yourself down and have a wee bit relax, and I'm going to go through your ins and outs. Right, so a big old bus of ins and outs, as always. Right, we're going to talk about, first up, you were talking about guys who've signed in the past, right? So we've got a fella Lee Tito, the 22-year-old South African, signed in a 4-year deal in 2023. Despite not having a work permit, he would head out on loan last season. He was released this summer without playing a game. He joined Mamelodi Sundowns in his home country. Reece McLear joined St Johnstone for an undisclosed fee. He was a squad player at best last season. English defender Michael Nottingham, who played quite a few games, he returned over the border and joined Brackley Town. Matthew Clark would also return home as a Northern Irish defender signed for Ballymena United. Right back, Jamie Brandon would leave in a free to Kilmarnock. Tommy Sharp would sign with Stranraer, while forward Lucas Stenhouse would make a free transfer move to Lithgow Rose. Big one I felt was Stephen Kelly, the 25-year-old midfielder, left the club and joined Orange County in the USL Championship in America on a free. We also have Liam Soule headed to Inverness, Cody Stark to Shotts Bonnecord, and Lewis Latona went East 5 all on loans. So ins. 26-year-old centre-back Shane Blaney joined from Motherwell. Zach Rudden, the much-travelled 25-year-old centre-forward, and 29-year-old right-back Cammy Kerr signed from Queen's Park, just as we all talked about. 25-year-old winger Conor McClelland, the former Aberdeen player, joined from Ayr United, while Stevie May signed permanently after his release for St Johnstone. Defensive midfielder Mohamed Salah, after a great season with Dundee, saw his contract up and signed up. And 36-year-old veteran centre-forward Jeremy Bokila was picked up from Willem II. Graham Carey, who scored that piece last season, signed up for St Johnstone also, while French centre-back Brooklyn Kabongolo was signed from Avonlea in England. The aforementioned 18-year-old prospect Lewis Latona was picked up from Hamilton, whilst Aidan Denham, the 21-year-old midfielder, was also signed in a free, this time from Hearts. And there is Haiti-born German winger Yannick Vanner, who was signed from SKU Amstetten in the Austrian third division. He also picked up Macaulay Tate from Hearts on loan and Adam Montgomery from ourselves, also on a season loan. So I don't know how many of them you've seen. I mean, all the Scottish guys, I dare say you've seen them. If you've not seen them for yourself, you've seen them in passing. Who's impressed you? Who's not impressed you? Who do you still have hope for? And where else could you be doing with getting players in?
Aye, so from the season so far, we've tried to keep as much of the team from last season as we can, and that's kind of been shown through for Pryor, McGowan, Wilson. They're going to start most of the games. Macaulay Tate in there, Pittman, Muirhead, Smith up front. For the new people, I don't think that there's necessarily anybody who's really burst out onto the scene or is really proven to stand out properly yet. Maybe just be because it's so early into the season. We're usually relatively poorish in the Premier Sports Cup like groups. I think we do well enough to get out of the group stages, but it's not like the performances are really that exquisite. So I think that we're still kind of waiting to see who's going to land and who's not going to. Based off of the first couple of games of the season, I do think that Mo Salah is going to be a fantastic signing. I think in that game against Hibs there, you can see the qualities that he brings. Just bringing that kind of more physical presence in the midfield, especially if he's going to be playing next to Scott Pittman and Macaulay Tate. Macaulay Tate, again, if he's one of the ones who counts as like a new signing, which probably does, because even though he was only on loan last season, he's only on loan again just now. I think he's absolutely fantastic, and I'm really looking forward to seeing how he progresses into the Premiership. I think it's been very positive so far. He's full of energy. I just hope he doesn't do too well that Hearts end up looking back at him and grabbing him on loan. But I think with Derek McInnes being at Hearts, I don't think he's going to be massively interested at this moment in time. He's going to have to do something exquisite to basically make
Yeah,
him. But I could see him staying around for a wee bit longer just because of
I
the
was
size of
I was
squad that
actually
Hearts had.
I was actually speaking to a Hearts guy, and I was looking at the podcast message boards, and they were saying how they wouldn't be upset to bring him back in and run him in, but they said exactly like you said. They said, I can't see it under McInnes just now. He'd need to really blow it away. So I dare say he'll kind of hang about.
Yeah. And I think for quite a lot of the other signings, to be fair, there's a lot that probably raised a few eyebrows. Zach Rudden and Cammy Kerr coming from Queen's Park. You look at the season that they've had there.
Yeah.
They've been in the Premiership and that before, but have then dropped down. Maybe this is one where Martindale looks at them and sees like a wee bit of a player that he thinks he can get an extra wee bit out of. But you would imagine for these kind of guys that's probably their last chance of playing Premiership football. So hopefully that there's a bit of intensity within them to prove themselves that they've still got it at that level. In terms of bringing more bodies in, we could maybe do with a bit more depth in defence. Danny Wilson got injured in the Falkirk game there, so I think we're down to 3 centre backs being McGowan, Blaney, and the boy Cabangolo, who I don't think Cabangolo's played an awful lot of professional football. Maybe we could do with another centre half in there. Losing Jamie Brandon, we came into this season with Dan Finlayson and Cammy Kerr. I think a lot of people are not entirely sure if they're going to be first choice right backs, but that's led to the emergence of Samson Lowell coming in, who played against Falkirk and Hibs there, and has probably been arguably our best player in both of those matches. So he looks like an actual gem that we've maybe scooped up there, even though he's been at us for a couple of seasons now. He was with us the entirety of last year, never really got a sniff, was forced into the squad against Falkirk, and he's taking his opportunity. Left back as well, Adam Montgomery looks decent enough going forward. Defensively, I'm a bit concerned. I think that'll be telling whenever we're playing to see him up against like a Hibs or a Hearts or a Rangers, where he's going to have to do a lot more defending than he is going to be doing attacking, because I think you've seen in that Kilmarnock game that he was maybe fault for one of the goals at least. In the Falkirk game, he did show his attacking credibility. So, but again, hopefully it's something as well that Martindale's looked at. He can do this. I can get this extra bit out of him, which he does seem to have a wee bit of a knack of doing so. But other than that, if you said to me, well, obviously the transfer window will probably shut pretty soon, I am relatively content with our squad. I think that there's a couple of teams in the league who have a worse squad than us, and I'm relatively confident that we'd be able to stay up above.
Interesting to talk about Samson Lowell. I mean, when I was looking through your squad there, which, see, to be honest, it's fucking huge. It's some fucking size, though. When I'm looking at your squad, I never even bothered looking at him. I'll be honest.
Yeah.
I was like, so as you say, 21-year-old Nigerian, he's been at your club for the last couple of seasons, came for a Nigerian team. So that's really interesting, because there's been guys over the last couple of years talking to guys like Papa Gay, guys like Aberdeen boys were like, this guy's terrible. And then last season, boom, comes in, has a great season. They punt him for 850 grand. Do you know what I mean? So you never know with these guys. The Adam Montgomery one's interesting because he's had some amount of loans out of Celtic. So I got a feeling this might be his last chance to prove he's a Scottish Premiership player. Do you know what I mean? Who else did I pick out? Ryan McGowan, obviously, good player. Do you know what I mean? He's still going to be a good player this season. So, is any, aside from who we've kind of spoken about, is there any young guys coming through here that maybe we should all know about, you would recommend, or is that pretty much just as you said, Stevie Bays?
I think we might have the oldest squad in the league, to be fair, because you look at a lot of those players, so Pryor's in his 30s, McGowan and Wilson are mid-30s, Graham Carey, you've got Stevie May, even like our kind of like young players, I guess, like you're looking at, like Lewis Smith you'd maybe consider, but I think that he might be about 24, 25 or something like that.
25,
yeah. He's an exciting player though that I could see somebody higher up in the league maybe taking a punt on just because of how direct a winger that he is. I think that he was quite highly thought of at Hamilton like a couple of years ago, but I don't think it quite came to fruition. But he seems to be getting back to form here. Other than that, I don't think that we have. Yeah, there's not an abundance. And Samson Lawal's coming through. But if you'd asked me about 3 weeks ago, there's no chance I would have ever considered that. So. Yeah, exactly. So yeah, I think that we do have an aging squad. Maybe that's the experience and know-how is going to be quite vital for us. I'd say that's a big difference between us and Falkirk, is I think that we've got that know-how of how to play the league, how to grind out results in the Premiership, which I think that their squad might be lacking. I think that was quite evident in that 3-1 game that we had there, where Falkirk were the better team for the first 20 minutes or so. We kind of soaked up that pressure. Once we scored that first goal, it was like, yeah, that's pretty much it. It's pretty much game over. I hopes though would be for the likes of Robbie Muirhead to continue having another good season. Again, somebody who showed a lot of promise as a young player, maybe kind of lost his way a little bit, ended up down in the Championship for a good amount of years. Last season was a maverick up front, scored so many unbelievable goals. So it'd be good to see him have a wee bit of like a redemption and showing that he's more than capable at this level again.
Cool. Right, so we're talking about this season as it goes. So as you're just back in the league, of course, it's the group stages again, the League Cup. Touching on what you said, I've often heard, like, even guys like Kilmarnock fans and stuff, like, you generally, unless you're in Europe, you generally use the League Cup as a pre-season. Do you know what I mean? So, you had a win over East Fife, 2-1 away from home, then a 1-0 reverse at Rugby Park, but then a 2-0 win over Brora and a 6-0 win over Celtic Hearts, both at home. Brought you out of the group, 9 points on board, one off Kelly in first, but 3 ahead of East Fife, and importantly, 4 more GD than Dunfermline. So that took you through to face Hibs at home last weekend. Hibs would run out 2-0, comfortable enough, 2 goals, both late in each half, enough to take the end of the League Cup for another season. So league-wise, okay start. A 2-2 opening day draw at Rugby Park, coming back from 2-0 down at half-time. A Robbie Muirhead penalty in the Pittman 86-minute equaliser. And next up was that home tie with last season's Championship champions, Falkirk, 2 up before being pulled back. And then Bokila scoring the third to secure 3 points. So we're 2 games in, a win and a draw, 4 points on board, 5 scored, 3 conceded, 2 points off Hearts and Celtic, and level with Hibs in 4th. So you've already kind of spoke about it. I mean, the Falkirk game, I watched the Falkirk game earlier on. As you said, Falkirk seem a wee bit weak-willed. I don't know, as you say, maybe kind of, and I think these were good for the win. Coming back for 2-0 down against Kilmarnock, but Hibs are looking good, so there's no, as much as you'd want to be in the cup, I don't think there's any real disgrace getting beat out for Hibs, do you know what I mean? So what were you saying? What was your thoughts on the start so far?
Yeah, great. For the first 2 games, I don't know if you'll have looked at the rest of the next fixtures that we have.
No.
It was very, very important for us to get to
Right.
get points in these first ones, because I think we've got obviously yourselves, and I think like in the next games after that is some form of Hibs, Aberdeen, Hearts, and Rangers, and Dundee United. So it's like every one of like the next games after that Falkirk game, all the league is basically the top half teams and Hearts, I believe.
Celtic, Hearts, Aberdeen, Rangers, Dundee United.
Yeah.
It's decent.
So if you didn't pick up any points, if you say we lost that game to Kilmarnock and say we drew to Falkirk, we could have ended up being match day 8, 1 point, and everybody's looking at you, everybody's looking down and that. Whereas, 4 points just now, we're kind of going to accept that we're going to be coming into a tough run. I mean, coming to Parkhead, you're basically like anything is a bonus. Keeping it under 3-0 is a bonus, in all honesty, because other teams are going to go there and get a number of goals taken off of them. So the fact that we've been able to, get that draw against Kilmarnock and that win against Falkirk, but also I think the manner that we've played in those games where we've competed, and it's not as if we've been, very fortunate in that regard, is very promising. And even that Hibs game there as well. I mean, Hibs have a really strong squad now. They rested Kieran Bowie, who's playing up front, £1 million striker, So it kind of tells you what you're kind of coming against now. Even Hibs bringing on, Mulligan came on
Yeah.
after, decent players that have been playing. So, yeah, nothing to be too disheartened about right now. We've got to be realistic and understand that, playing the top teams and that, it's going to be very, very tough for us. But, if we can apply ourselves in the right way, you never know what we might be able to pick up points along the way.
A couple of wee bloody noses along the way, aye. Right, so we're on a home straight here. I'm kind of going to avoid the last time we played each other because I don't think it's relevant. No. So this weekend, 3 p.m. at Celtic Park, Livingston and David Martindale, as we've already spoken about, he's been given a fair bit of credit for adapting the team and kind of having that more, changing the perception of Livingston somewhat. Having more 4-3-3 attacking formation somewhat. So with the game of the weekend in mind, how do you see you guys lining up? What do you think the approach will be? And then just what's your hope for the game?
Oh, it's 1000% going to be that we're going to put 10 men behind the ball and hopefully we can sneak a goal. We'd be absolutely daft not to actually remember. I think it was the COVID season. And oh yeah, let's have a wee bit of a go at it. And I think he's ended up turning us over 6-0 in the end. And it's like that's exactly why you don't try and be a wee bit more kind of proactive, because yous are far too good for it. If we go and put Maeda 1-on-1 against who's going to be playing right back for us, like what? Imagine it was Cammy Kerr. Imagine we isolated Cammy Kerr against Dyson Maeda for 90 minutes. Suicide. So it's got to be pragmatic. What I would say about that is that at least with the likes of like Robbie Muirhead up front now, we've got somebody who's physical up top and can run, and might be able to cause a couple of issues, a la what Lyndon Dykes did to Christopher Julian quite a few times. So there is always that kind of threat where if we have like enough athleticism in the right areas to kind of spring a quick counter. I think defensively as well. I don't think Celtic fans are entirely convinced by the likes of a Scales or that. If you're maybe able to isolate somebody like him, get the fans sort of nervous that something could maybe happen from that. You might have a little bit of a chance, but you're talking about that's going to happen maybe like what 3 times in a game at best, and you've always kind of got people who are hard working enough to get back. So yeah, although that we're trying to play football a little bit better, going to Parkhead and trying it is definitely not the right idea.
Right, okay, I'm not going to push you. I'm not going to push you for a prediction. I've kind of body swerved that this season, right? But tell me what your hopes and your thoughts of the season ahead and just the club in general. I mean, what's the hope? You've got this new ownership. Is there something you would like to see the club invest in? Is there just stuff like that?
I think for us, safety is just going to be the main priority for now. We are the smallest team by a country mile by going off of gate receipts and stuff like that. So we're not going to be able to compete on that front. But if we can do what we did so well in the past and create like a savvy team who's able to grind out results and even just be like a pain in the arse to everybody else in the league, that's more than satisfying for us. You look at everybody else in the league. Celtic, Rangers, Hibs, Hearts, Aberdeen, they're the ones who are, really looking, like you look at what we had 5 teams going for European football, not including Hearts there as well. And we'd be quite foolish to, to get too above ourselves. If we can, cement ourselves again as being a steady Premiership team, finishing between 9th and say even 6th, like kind of like getting to like a point where we can maintain that. I think that's all we'd be looking for. Stability is by far the main thing, and if it's a bit of a roller coaster on the way, that's fine. But at the end of the day, we just want a team who we can kind of be proud of and play in a certain way that you can get behind. If we have a team that works hard, if it comes short, but it's not from a lack of effort, then we can only hold our hands up and say we've done our best there. That might sound a little bit defeatist, but we're such a minuscule club. Like you can't there's a lot of teams who would kill to be like in the position that we've been in the last 7 years or so. And if we keep on doing things the right way that they're maybe not, then we can sustain it for a little bit longer this time.
As you say, I mean, without kind of blowing smoke up your arse, I mean, you look at the history Livingston's had since their inception, and you go and look at Queen's Park, who, as long as I've lived, that I mean, the fucking Queen's Park have always been doing there, even when they went gung-ho, they still couldn't do it. So, as you said, right. So, Angus, that's us done, right? Before I let you go, if people want to follow you up and follow you on social media and stuff like that, where can they get you, mate?
It's basically my name with 11 at the end. So Angus McGregor 11, you'll be able to find me on Twitter there.
Well, fantastic. Angus, as always, hope your team gets absolutely battered at the weekend. But I hope you have a good season. I hope you have an enjoyable season, my friend. And hopefully me and you can speak again some point this season.
Yeah, be my pleasure. Thanks very much for having me.
What a guy.